stream here on lichess and Twitch. We had a successful simul yesterday. It was 21 players technically. One player was exterminated from the simul. We won't count that game. So 21 players, only one draw, and like 15 wins and 5 losses, or 16 wins and 4 losses. I don't remember. That was the least draws I've ever had in a simul. I'm really excited about that. So we're happy for that. You know, so I was handing out a lot of draws before because I would get into really, really wicked time pressure. And you can hear the Boston terminology coming in there. But we, managed to just play without draws, which is cool, It was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. I didn't do a simul for a week, so I was kind of missing it. Anyway, guys, we're going to play 15 plus 2. I woke up a little late today because my alarm, like I was sleeping with pillows over my head or something. So I didn't hear my alarm, but we're almost on time. We're only 5 minutes behind schedule. 15 plus 2 challenges only. Will Skinner was challenging to 15 plus 3, but we've corrected him. Let's start the game, because these games are quite long, and I can only play like 6 or 7. We are going to finish around 12:40. 12:45 today. Normally the stream I'll do until 1 o'clock as a full 3-hour stream, but only like until next week. I'm doing a little bit shorter because of the time change is not lined up yet between North America and here. I have a bunch of lessons that I have to do later, and they're all pushed up an hour because of the US and European time difference being an hour less than usual. Excuses, everybody has excuses, right? So they're like something that we all have. Knight f3. Against Will Skinner, I haven't played e5 very much, and it seems to me he was pretty good against the Lopez, but now I don't remember. Let's try to throw him a curveball. Blue Crow, I can't stay either. I have to go to the pharmacy quite urgently. Urgently. Blue Crow, I understand. I think we can handle it. I think, Mupavats yesterday wanted to play in my simul. He's a solid FM, and I told him no because he's too strong. But there was like one guy who was definitely using an engine. So in retrospect, it would have been better to let Mufats play, and I feel bad about it. I don't understand why people would do that, but humans, they kill each other and other fun stuff, so you can't really rule anything out. Bishop a4. I was actually thinking of playing the Norwegian variation here with b5, but I don't really know it. It would be better to know the theory a little more deeply than like just one line. So let's try to play a normal Lopez. Okay, Blue Crow, thank you. Sanalita, I totally support your time change alignment. I support your support. Well, so Will Skinner plays very, very solidly here with d3. Yesterday I haven't had time to look at all the simul games. I like to. I don't just throw them in the corner and forget about them. I really try to look at all my games. And yesterday I had a Marshall with white. I played this d3 variation, accepted with d3, and that's actually fairly topical. I'm not really sure why everybody plays bishop d7 in this position rather than bishop e7. I'm not afraid of having doubled pawns. I guess d4 is the problem. If bishop e7, d4, then you can play bishop d7. I mean, what's the difference, really? I guess if bishop d7, you can play d4, b5. Is that the point? Well, actually, no. If bishop d7, you can just take the pawn on e4. So this is more accurate, I guess, technically. Technically more accurate to play bishop d7. I've occasionally played this position with white because of avoiding the Berlin defense. It actually makes sense. If you're going to play d3 against the Berlin defense, then you might as well think about playing like an entire repertoire based on d3 and the Lopez. 15 plus 2 is nice control for us amateurs. Do you agree with me? A lot of time to think. You're a very strong amateur, sir. But I guess technically you're an amateur. Knight on bd2. I was an amateur until last year for a long time. I was actually an amateur, I think, until I started streaming again full time. I've been a professional and amateur both in the last 20 years. Knight bd2. We can try to do g6 now. I guess that's the aggressive and better, setup where black's pieces have more space to coordinate. I don't know. I think the problem is in Puvats that everybody, some people have trouble using the time. Yesterday in my team championship, my Budapest team championship, it's really weak, the Budapest team league. Some of the teams have really low rated players on the bottom boards and stuff. We have a couple little kids, and they're very, very talented. But they both lost because they both moved too fast in like very good positions yesterday. So how many times do I have to tell you, no matter whether you're like 8 years old or you're an adult, take your time. There's no prize for moving, and keeping extra time on the clock at the end of the game. I mean, it's there's only 3 results: win, lose, or draw. There's no special prize for winning fast, and you learn more from taking your time. So I was never a player who typically got into time pressure through most of my career. Okay, I think this is all theory here. I've had games going like castles, and then they can go psychopathic with like h4, which I think is kind of anti-positional, to be honest, but it might have some... Yeah, I think h4... I have doubts about h4, we'll just put it that way. I mean, Steinitz played some crazy games where he like played queen e2 and castle queenside in this type of position. But I don't think that it's... He did that, especially I remember one game against Chigorin, but it was a special situation. It wasn't exactly like this. So I know queen e8 has been played against me. I had a very similar game against one of the opponents in my stream yesterday. But queen e8, why does this move like not appeal to me? Something about the move doesn't appeal to me. It just... I don't know. But I think I understand the point now. Maybe it's a Rubinstein type of knight maneuver, bouncing this knight, giving the knight a place to go. Because e7's not that great a square. It also stops d4. The delayed threat of d4. Something that happens a lot in these positions. I've seen a lot of Grandmaster games go bad for black. Just because you don't play d4 right away doesn't mean you promise to never play d4. And the majority of strong games I've seen, like Hari Krishna winning some nice games in the... Well, I'm talking about like Joko pianos as well as... It doesn't have to be a Lopez. This might as well be a Joko piano with d3 and the bishop going to b3 or something later on. What's the difference? It's all the same structure. So I've seen like Hari Krishna, lots of strong players, Caruana, delayed d4 at the right moment, and white just gets like a spatial advantage in the center. It's the end of chess. Some 1500 guy has more viewers than an IM. It does not connect to rooks. That's not appealing. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's true. A 1500 guy has more viewers than an IM. Well, he's probably got a reason for that. But it's not a contest. And honestly, a lot of people aren't going to be interested in watching 15 plus 2 classical. So I really don't care if somebody else has more viewers. I think in the long run, when I've been streaming a couple of years, hopefully that will build up a really, really good audience. Yesterday I had great viewership for the simul. I'm not sure if we set a record, but we were up over like 150 at one point during the simul yesterday. So that's the other thing is the time, but my main goal is not really fame and fortune. Although I'll take it. So bishop d2 from Yule Skinner. I think it's interesting to play like bishop g5, actually provoke h6 and go back to d2. Something that I've seen in like Lopez games. The point taken about the rooks not getting connected, of course, like it's a fairly closed position. Yule Skinner's got his closed game. You have to know that I'm not actually technically a black side of the Lopez player, Spanish player. I mean, with white I play the Spanish. With black I'm just experimenting because I never really played e4, e5 very much. Like Petrov occasionally. I'm a good audience, you don't need them. So anyway, we could do this stream on Thursday too. Thoughtful Thursday. I was thinking about that. Mindful Monday, Thoughtful Thursday. 1:15 to a week is enough. I have to guard against drifting on the clock because I have a tendency to talk, and then kind of get into really absurd time pressure. Well, I mean, I guess that we can equalize here by playing knight d4. I mean, isn't that what a professional does in this position? Technically, trading two sets of pieces. This is my friend Dragan Kosic's joke. When playing Iveta Rylich or Iveta Radzievich, the Polish WGM IM, she's very tactical. And she used to play the Benoni and crazy sharp positions, and Kosic is like a master technical player. Like, he's unbelievable, and he can see like solutions to studies very quickly, and he's extremely intuitive. But he didn't want a tactical slugfest with her. He'd be like, "Yeah, just trade two pieces and it's over," you know. And that's what we're doing here. We're just like trading two pieces, essentially. There's one problem with knight d4 though. Take. It's all fun and games till somebody loses an eye. Maybe I actually lose on this. Knight d4, pawn takes pawn. Bishop takes a4, b3. There I have bishop b5. Because on bishop anywhere else, there's pawn takes pawn, bishop b4, winning the exchange. Bishop b5. Pawn takes pawn. What am I talking about? This is not good. Knight d4. You guys follow me. Knight d4, pawn takes pawn, bishop takes, b3, bishop b5, d takes e. I'm losing something there. Well, that officially doesn't work because of bishop d2. If it wasn't for bishop d2, that tactic would be, the simplifying maneuver, let's call it, rather than a tactic, would be possible. We're old school players. I bet you are around 40, so we're like classic. I can see through your thinking, playing style, understanding the position. It's an honor to play with you. It's an honor to play with you too. The police chief. It's good to have a strong player in the midst of our amateur collection here. I mean, a lot of you guys are strong players, but like Mupavats is actually, we've got two strong players. Mupavats, Spinal Tap Chess is international master of Spinal Tap. He's usually kind of shy. He doesn't like to show off his skills here on the stream. Bishop d2. I just don't know. I mean, I'm a King's Indian player. This is not the greatest King's Indian here. All right. Now that he's played like castles and he's not set up for h4, h5, we can do king h8, knight g8. This is actually a typical kind of Joko and King's Indian plan. What's up, Spinal Tap Chess? Yeah, Mupavat seems very solid to me. May I bid you a good day. Guys, we're accepting challenges at 15 plus 2. Alright, you guys are cool. Timur challenged me, but Timur has enough games. Why has he got a question mark? No standard games. Alright, nobody else challenged me because that'll probably be the maximum games we can play. Unless we get a cancellation. Timur and BDLD challenged me. So I don't think we're going to play more than 7 games. You know, I'm not sure we're even going to get to play that many. So we're probably all set for challenges. You can challenge if you want, but it's very optimistic thinking. I don't know. I think up to Queen E8 it's probably book. But B4 now. I'm actually kind of... I don't know why I was going to say, like, happy to see that. But he must not be watching the stream. I mean, he's walking right into knight d4. The great simplifying maneuver. But b4 does have a kind of very, very serious virtue. On knight d4, I was thinking about bishop takes d7, knight takes d7, and after trading on f3 twice. But the knight would have this bouncing through, like, c5 and e6 after that. Now he's taken that away, so... There's a classic saying that, like, a wing advance should be met by an advance in the center, but this is not a typical position. I don't think that d5... d5 is not a good move. I don't have enough control of certain squares in the center. It would be catastrophic to lose c5. I can play knight to d4 and simplify, or we can play knight back to g8 and try to go, you know, for something on the king's side. It's just... There's some question about my king side. Is it really safe enough? Knight g8. It's really a hyper-aggressive plan. Given that I have less time here, I think... Let's just double-check this again. Knight d4. Bishop takes d7. Knight takes f3. Queen takes... I think the knight g8 is just too risky in this position. But the consistent play is probably like knight g8 and f5. It's just that I feel it's very, very risky for black strategically. I decided to simplify. Practical considerations here, like he has 10 minutes and I have 5 minutes. I'm very, very confident in my endgame abilities. I know a lot of people might say, oh, you know, trading 2 pieces, this is so boring. But I'm trying to practice practical play, something that's been mastered by Master Carlsen. And thinking in terms of that, now this recapture is not clear. We could go either way. I mean, knight takes. Where's my knight going? Ultimately to e6. Queen takes looks interesting. I mean, knight takes. How am I going to ever play f5 if I play knight takes? Someone asked if I'm Chinese. I get that occasionally. I'm obviously not Chinese, but you know, you couldn't know if I had a little bit of Chinese ancestry or something. My mother has a little bit of kind of something very, very slightly Chinese or Asian in her look, but we're not actually. There's not as far as I know. I don't have any kind of Chinese genealogy. But I do occasionally get that. My eyes are... I keep my eyes kind of closed. So I don't open my eyes really wide, giving me this Asian look. But no, not Chinese at all. People used to think I was high all the time because I look sleepy or something. No, I get it all. Kinds of weird comments. Mupavat says, what, that is nice. I have 2 familiar friends on lichess, FM Peitar and I am Vladimir Rebranovich. Right. Rabrenovich has been with us quite a bit here on the stream. I haven't seen him lately. He was actually watching my stream a lot, Mupovats. I don't know if he told you about it or not, but I haven't seen him lately. Similar to you. You guys are obviously the same generation. Or maybe he's a little bit younger, but pretty much similar. I'm a conservative player. A Meisei person. Other masters take rated challenge. Okay, I don't really understand that sentence, but it's cool. People used to think I was high all the time, and you were. Yeah, it was only 50%. That was the same thing with me. You know, Spinal Tap. I mean, it's just not fair. It's like crying, you know, the boy who cried wolf. I can open my eyes really, really wide, then I don't look as Asian. If you guys want me to. I woke up late. I feel really sleepy still. A4, grabbing the space. It's hard for black to really do anything, but like in this anti-Rylich position, we trade two pieces to get the tactician in a dry situation. Actually, it doesn't work. Mule Skinner is very, very okay with any kind of material distribution. I don't think he cares about piece trades. He's basically a closed position player. You know, we'd be better off, practically speaking, against Mule Skinner. Better off trying to I don't know, let's centralize something here. What should I do? Rook AE8. I was thinking about that square for my knight, actually. Queen G4. How about trading queens? An impulsive, practical decision. Probably slightly debatable move. This is like a blitz move. But I had an interesting idea in conjunction with this. The only way he can avoid trading queens is going here. And then I thought I can play like knight g8 and bishop h6 to trade off my bad bishop. And anyway, I want to play knight g8 to possibly unblock my f pawn. But he traded queens. White's a tiny bit better here because technically, he has a little more space on the queen side. And I have a number of pawns on dark squares, creating a mostly dark square pawn chain. We got another challenge, guys. I think we've got enough challenges for today. Okay, now we have bishop h6. Getting rid of my bad bishop should probably be a priority. This should equalize, more or less. Tedious position, though. Makes you want to play the black side of the Lopez, doesn't it? Okay, if I was really uncompromising, I would have played 12, king 8, knight g8, and gone for f5. But it's sharp, and honestly, it's not that I'm just a conservative player. I'm not always conservative. It depends on the situation. But I'm trying to be practical. I have a tournament coming up, and thinking about practical considerations based on time. You know, if I have 5 minutes and the other guy has 10 minutes, does it make sense to go into complications? You know, does it make sense to enter a more complicated position when you have less time than the other guy? That's my question. You know. I think it doesn't really make sense. You know, I think if you have less time, you should probably try to keep it simple. And if you have more time, then complications, you know, may be a good idea. The autocorrect ruins my sentences. I'm not all goofy gumdrops. You guys can tell him. I'm not under the influence of any drugs. I've been known to drink a beer on the stream. Pretty extreme stuff. Actually, Hungarian Palinka, which is pretty strong. Mule Skinner now, he's getting kind of funky here with the rook d1. Knight e3 looks like it's signing my own death certificate. No, knight to e3 would lose immediately. Actually not. Knight e3 rook e1 is a draw by repetition. Bishop takes bishop. So this is an accurate move, rook d1, rather than just trading. You know, he could have traded though. I mean, ultimately, does it make a difference? Trade in rook d1. Yeah, that probably wastes the tempo. A very accurate move by Mule Skinner, and he's faster than me too. Just not the most exciting game going on. I mean, knight e3 is suicidal. Okay, then we only have one move. Bishop check is bad. Okay, now, it would be nice to go for f5, but I think that realistically here, we have to consider that the knight might be better placed closer to the center. As much as I'd like to play for f5, it's probably best to just stay in the area of the center. Palinka. Yeah, I mean, we'll have a Palinka stream sometime. I don't like to be a bad influence, like Spinal Tap, on my audience. Encouraging negative behaviors. Just kidding. This is kind of a weird position to play. Maybe now d5 starts to come in consideration. My pawn on e4 looks kind of sketchy. Saying kind of too much. I have to stop that. It's getting to be irritating. Alright. If I say one word too much, just let me know and I'll try to change my vocabulary a bit. I feel like every move I make is like a weakness or something. How about a5? Is that worth considering? Or does it just make it worse? You gotta do something. I like to kind of lock it down. I'd basically be happy with the draw here. You know, assuming I'm playing an equal or close to me rated opponent, I think that a draw would be an acceptable result. I'm probably around equal now, but I mean, for the majority of the game, it felt like I was slightly worse. C5, anyone? Looks like a weird move. And this is a little bit awkward. I feel like I'm playing a GM or something. Karyakin is white. This is not fun, man. We just have to just hold on. I mean, that's all I can do here. Hold on for dear life. Not fun. Skinner's pretty impressive sometimes. I mean, my score is 65-4. Look at this game and how he's played. Now, how can I have 65-4 against a guy who's played like this? It doesn't make sense. He's too good to be 65-4. It's practically impossible. This is a master strength game. He's slightly better. Now he's clearly better. I mean, maybe not an ECO terminology, but he shouldn't really take a draw here. Let's try to guess. Wait. I'm going to try to guess the exact stockfish evaluation of this position. Alright? You guys as my witness, I'm going to guess and say that it's 0.6 centipawns better for white. Alright? He's got the potential for c4, c5. He has control of the open file, but still my position is somewhat solid. 0.6, I think this might be a conservative estimation. Yeah. Wow, it was conservative. 1.3, 1.1. It'll probably settle down. Damn, dude. 1.2. The c4 is just too strong. It's like overwhelming. It almost wins by force. Another practical consideration is the wise choosing of a moment to offer a draw when you have no counterplay and you're just like getting tortured. I mean, honestly, I might be able to play c5 and hold on at some point. The computer's talking about c6. But absolutely thankless position. And I didn't even click. Game analysis, did I? 0.8, 0.4. I'm surprised it's as high as it is. Yeah, it's like a full pawn. But there's no counterplay for black. Mule Skinner's not going to have too many centipawn loss here. 7 centipawn loss. This is a guy who's like 64-4 or something. 6 centipawn loss. It's going down. I mean, I'm at like 1 inaccuracy and 13 centipawn loss. He's at 9 now, 2 inaccuracies. He made another inaccuracy around here. I think when I played King H8, the computer kind of liked my position there. And then all of a sudden I did something like trading queens with Queen G4 was bad. Thought well in the endgame. So Mule Skinner has 8 centipawn loss. I have 11. Nothing really happened in this game though, you know. Mupavats. That's why we don't play the black side of the Lopez. There was no... Yeah, Mule Skinner always blunders in the end. There was no... There were no tactics in the game. That's why the centipawn loss is so low. Okay. 15 plus 2. Queen G4 was a bad move. It was like a blitz move. Trading queens, I overestimated, you know, my chances to equalize in that endgame. I like playing against the Trompowsky. There was a time when it was one of my worst openings, but kind of like the C3 Sicilian. But I solved my problems with the Trompowsky. Unlike the C3 Sicilian, which remains a problem to this day. The real Deep Wolverine asks, what is the centipawn loss? Welcome to lichess. The centipawn loss. 92. Do you know who used to play this against me, Mupavach? The late, great Heinrich Chepakaitis. How many blitz games I had with the Latvian blitz legend, Smart Chip. 92. This was his pet variation. So against Chepakaitis, I guess I always played... I think this was his line. I always played C5. It's basically like a Queen's Gambit, a weird Queen's Gambit accepted reversed or something. Do you know Naruse? I don't know. It sounds strangely familiar. Do I have a challenge from them? No. It sounds strangely familiar. I think... I don't know. How many center pawns did you lose positionally in form of lost opportunities during a game? Center pawns. Centipawns. Centipawns, not center pawns. That's when I used to teach little kids in the school how to play chess. They'd be like, pawns. P-O-N-D. Pond. So, Heinrich. This is the way I would always play against Smart Chip. Queen A5. It seemed to be okay for black. It's nothing special. It's kind of like a Catalan. But it should about equalize. I basically did fine when I played against Heinrich. We had a lot of games. The chances were about equal typically. I keep my pawn structure together. Try to regain my pawn. Chepokitis, I'm saying he was Latvian, but he was Latvian, but it's a Lithuanian name, right? I'm pretty sure he was Latvian. Okay, C4. That's an interesting move. I'm sure that Smart Chip usually played something more conservative. Maybe I should just take on C4. Actually, yeah, I'm not sure what he's doing. This might be an overly ambitious try by Mupavats. Then again, maybe not. Alright. Oh, Nowruz is a celebration of spring, which is an hour from now in solar calendar. I mean, yeah, I guess it's a worldwide idea. There's a Spring Festival chess tournament here. E3, so I have C3, but it's slow. Basically not a good idea. We need to get developed, but we also need to try to hold on to this. I mean, okay, need to. I mean, I can try to hold on to that pawn. And it might inconvenience white a good deal if I attempt to, but I'm not sure. Bishop E6 is worth considering. The problem with Bishop E6, it would block me from playing E6. It's possible it's better to just play some kind of more natural move. I can also just play C3. The C3 has some strange problems, you know, like structurally that's great for me. C3 takes, and then regain the pawn on C5. I'm just not sure how exactly that works. C3 takes E6, and then my bishop ends up blocked in. Wonder if it's worth considering bishop E6 or not. Bishop E6, rook C1. Then what? I blocked my bishop in. What would Salo Fleur do? He probably wouldn't have his queen on A5 so early. I mean, I could just take on C5. It's probably not that bad. My queen is going to waste some time later on. Queen takes C5, bishop takes C4, knight C6. It feels like it's a little bit better for white. Yeah, maybe this is actually worth trying, playing kind of tactically here. I don't know. Maybe I can castle queenside. It's pretty crazy. My bishop on f8 would like to go to g7. Well, I mean, I think the celebration of spring is a universal concept. What is he going to do? Castle queenside himself? I thought rook c1 might have been better. Here I have c3 now. Sacking a pawn back again. That's like sacking a pawn, actually. Not sacking a pawn back. Man, I don't know. Knight c6, queen takes, bishop takes. I mean, bishop takes, queen takes, rook d8, knight f3. So easy for him to deal with that. I'm not sure what I should do about my bishop on f8. You know, it would be nice to play like f5 and bishop g7. Everything would be fine. But there's really no time for that now. Queen takes c5 is possible. It's kind of awkward. But I don't know if I have a choice at this point now. Bishop takes, queen takes e6. I just want to get my pawn back. Please, can I have my pawn back? Pretty please. I guess white's a little better here. I didn't really get my pawn back in a convenient way. I think he let me off the hook, though. Ooh, it feels like I'm fine now. If you don't do that, though, you have ways to try to torture me here. Maybe I'm wrong, though. I mean, like, queen b3, queen h4. Okay, queen h4 is sort of debatable. I guess all the squares are somewhat debatable. Maybe queen f4. Maybe he was concerned I'd play queen b5 and actually trap his king in the center. I feel like we're out of the woods. Rook d8. This is objectively equal. Wow, I did not anticipate rook c1. What is up with that move? A3. Okay. Why not? Put my king in the center for the ending. We could castle, but it's better to stay in the center. Upavats is playing fast. People go and see each other and children get money and presents. Yeah, I mean, it's a universal holiday in a sense. Rook c2. This looks like we're slightly better now. Maybe I'm being too optimistic in pronouncing that, but obviously hard for me to win this. But there are pawns on both sides of the board. We have a bishop. Our king is better centralized. Upavats is used to playing fast. He's playing mostly blitz here, you know. So he may be, we could say, falling into the category of people who are. He's not playing bullet though. Falling into the category of people playing a little bit too quickly because of all the blitz and bullet. Feels like black's better now. We have rook d5, rook d3, rook b3. Now obviously it's going to be hard to break him down here, but he wants to centralize his king with king e2. Rook d7, rook d3, king f1, rook b3, or rook d3, king f1, double rooks, king e2, rook b3. My rook gets in there on b3, and then it kind of hangs out and maybe goes to b5 if necessary. That looks good. We'll just hang out here, revolving around the like white squares. Try to get my other rook in. I've got to be careful of the rook getting trapped. I wouldn't mind trading one set of rooks just to be on the safe side, so accidents don't happen. You know, it's kind of debatable that he put his pawns on dark squares in a technical way. That doesn't seem like that big a deal, but actually, if you put them on white squares, okay, I might have available things like knight to b4 now. I think he played a little too routinely with the c-file plan. Maybe he's not lost, but it's like black's better now. World loser, what's up? Yeah, good point. There's no spring in the tropics. Guys, we had a simul yesterday. It was really fun. About 22, 21 players. And only one draw, which is my all-time minimum draw record. We got in our usual time pressure. It's a 40-40 simul I try to do every week here on lichess. I'm actually thinking about, after my tournament in April, I'm playing a GM tournament here in Budapest. I think in May I'm going to be free from like tournament responsibilities unless I go to Zalakaros. So we could try to do like a Sunday simul that's a little bit longer, basically 1 or 2 weeks. I think I'll do like a 60 plus 40 simul or something like that. the top half of the world. Yeah. It's kind of discriminating. Say the northern hemisphere is the top half. The southern hemisphere is the bottom half. It's not politically correct to discriminate like that. How do you know which is the top half? And it's all subjective. Maybe really like the South Pole is the top half, and we just made the map the other way. Okay, guys. Mupavat's starting to use time now. He's like, oh wow, wait a minute. I don't really have a plan here. Not so easy. Where's that knight going? Well, I was talking about trading a set of rooks. But honestly, he's kind of paralyzed. I mean, this looks like a strong move, actually. Because I was thinking about these squares for my rook. I could even do something like here, here. The white squares are notably weak. This bishop is... This guy is setting picks if you watch like American or basketball. Just American basketball. We're just talking about basketball, which happened to be invented in the United States. Setting picks, you're like trying to take out enemy defenders so the other guy can score. That's basically what this bishop is doing. He's sort of like mining the whole diagonal. Tomorrow it's a normal stream, 5 plus 3 up to 8 plus 3. Alright, what do you guys think about A5, A4 as a concept? I'm a little bit concerned here. What am I concerned about? Well, I could overextend myself, basically. When I start moving pawns like A5, A4, that pawn is going to become a responsibility for me. Maybe my original plan of like rook D5 and rook B5 is a little more straightforward. Mupavat's just sitting there waiting for me to like walk into some kind of one-move tactic or something. It's not easy to make progress. In retrospect, perhaps I should have traded a set of rooks, just kind of relieve the congestion here. But A5, A4 looks like a reasonable try. I don't think it's going to be so easy for him to get this pawn on A4. And it will fix his pawns on the dark squares. My rook has retreat squares. He's a little bit paralyzed. I mean, he can't play like knight d3. He can't play knight d2 without dropping something. What's up, friends? We're playing FIDE Master Puvats. I'm sorry, it's hard enough for me to learn how to pronounce words in Hungarian. Now I have to learn Cyrillic pronunciations too. I actually studied Russian, but that was like 25 years ago. Was it that long? pretty much. I didn't spend enough time in the language lab like I was supposed to. I almost didn't graduate from university because of Russian. I was like really weak. He went king f1. That's basically a high-level waiting move. Where is he going? Knight f3. I'm not really sure. We can all make waiting moves. But I feel like I missed something when I played a5. Like I could have played f4 here. But objectively, I'm not sure if that's even good for me. I mean, yes, he can't take because of knight d4 check, but it doesn't actually break through or anything. Probably it was worth a try, though. I probably should have played this f4 when I had the chance. What's he doing? Getting tortured, tied down to these pawns on the dark squares. Still hard for black to make progress. He's got knight d2. Yeah, that stops f4. That pretty much stops that idea. Let's see, rook b5, rook d5, rook b5. It's always fun getting forked in positions like this. I mean, there's a lot of potential knight forks with these two guys lurking around. Maybe objectively this is a draw, but black can have a little bit of fun in the interim. This king just on g1. Playing with no king here. Wow. Alright. Now the problem is this pawn is extended, you know, so if I do something like rook here, he has knight b6, check, takes, rook there, let's see, rook there, knight b6. Knight b6. Trade rooks. Yeah, that's the problem. If I allow knight b6. Can't afford to allow it. A lot of pressure on b2. I wish I had some kind of sacrifice I could do. Like an exchange sacrifice or something. Rook takes. Knight takes, rook takes. That's a sacrifice. The problem is, like, it's probably not enough. Other than that, it's great. Let's see, take, 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 take. Rook b1 takes. Rook takes. I'm like fighting for a draw if I do that. Maybe I had bishop takes b2. Bishop takes b2, could that have worked? Knight takes b3? Not really. We're close to something here. I don't think there's any sense in playing h5 because he'll just play like h4 and freeze the pawn there. Probably wouldn't hurt my position that much though. What I need is a second front. It's just going to be really hard to break through. If I play h5, well, I played f3 now. Now h5 is more tempting because he's less inclined to play h4. Probably can still play it, but he has a lot more weaknesses than he used to. Time is getting short. You know, I was just thinking though with my rook on b3 when he was threatening to take it. I wonder if I could have left it there. Trying to make a second front, second weakness, but it's not really a weakness. If I could push the pawn to h3, the h2 pawn would be like a weakness. Wow, he took. Did I miss something? I didn't think he would break up his own pawn chain like that, but it's probably not that bad. I don't think that pawn's going anywhere objectively. I mean, what's it going to do? Queen on h8? Really? Let's see. All right. It is hard for me to make progress here. It's hard for both sides to make progress. This knight, you know, if I could make it work. If I could put it on d5 magically somehow, how can I get it to d5? Or c5 maybe. Can I think about maneuvering maybe knight b8, knight d7, knight c5, knight e4? He does have counterplay with that pawn though. Problem is that the knight is sort of defending my position. I think objectively I can't win this. I don't know. I'm a little bit better, but maybe not. Maybe it's just an illusion. I felt like I was a little bit better. Now he does have a passed pawn though. I'm willing to take a draw here. Time's getting really low. I don't know how to make progress. If I had more time, I would think about it, but all right, let's see. Evaluation equal. Yes. The computer thinks it's totally equal. Looks fair to me. I thought we were slightly better at some point. The computer thinks I made a mistake at the end. Like after rook c1 I was better. Two very close games so far. I feel like we're playing chess 960 or something. Not a lot of mistakes and not a lot of tactics. I don't know if it's the time control or what that's making these games like this, but we were like a tiny bit better, but I don't think it was ever like any real danger for white there. Okay guys, constant change. Objectively it's equal. Blue Crow, did you leave or did you never leave? Did you leave and come back? Or you just never left? Constant change. Let's try G3. Nothing seems to matter when I play constant change. We often get the same kind of old Indian. E5. That's an aggressive move. Previously he had played the black-sided reverse Sicilian. So it kind of looks like he's offering to go into one of those. Transposed to the English. This is objectively white's best move after G3, E5. William, objectively speaking, your strength grows. Yeah, I hope so. I mean, that's the thing. I'm working on chess every day, and by doing the stream, I mean, basically, I had been playing very little chess for 5 or 6 years while I was playing poker full time, and my strength wasn't growing, it was probably diminishing. I played in the just Hungarian team championships and stuff like that, and I wasn't really working on the game at all. And now, like, every day working with you guys and teaching lessons privately, even though I don't have that much time to actually study my own openings, I'm working on chess every day, and I feel like my game is stronger too. My team games have been extremely strong, and I feel like I'm getting better. So, soon the elo will go over 2400 again, and we'll start the process of going to. My ultimate goal is to regain my maximum strength, so we'll see if I can get there. Basically, I think my maximum official rating was like 2465 or something like that. Let's see if we can get back there in a year or so. It's kind of hard though, because my FIDE K factor is 10, and it really it makes it so that your rating doesn't change. The maximum rating points I can lose or win, like in one game, is 10 points, and that's like if I beat Magnus Carlsen. So it's pretty hard to gain rating points with the 10K factor. Mupavat said, "I'm not a Trompowsky player. I just played it for fun." Yeah, that's Shepokaitis' variation, but in a sense, you might. It was interesting the way you played it with C4. We're gonna have to take a look at that. Okay, constant change, because I thought you might be better there, Mupavat. That's the thing that bothers me about that. Like, I don't really think that my Queen A5 is the main line. It's a very rare sideline. That's the way I always played against Heinrich, but objectively, I think it's like the secondary move. Maybe just some E6 or something is the main line for black. And I'm thinking you should do something more aggressive, like not trade queens, and you might actually be better there in the opening. Constant change. Yeah, this is the way he used to play before. It's hard to get an advantage against this. We've actually had a lot of games with colors reversed, but then he's usually like castling queenside. I don't think he's going to try to castle queenside here with black. I can play d4. I mean, I guess the d4 knight takes c3. I've definitely had this before. I mean, d4 is the main move. According to Nigel Pova and a book that I read in like 1986, I think the d4 is probably... How do you do in poker, William? I'm a long-time pro. I was very successful, in low to mid stakes tournament play, and I played a little bit live, but I'm not playing since I'm not playing online since like 2015. So I always did pretty well. I was playing full time on PokerStars for a number of years, but the online poker ecosystem is basically, I think, like destroyed. It's just not many reasons why I quit online poker. I could probably list like 7, but I think now our main focus is on trying to become a chess grandmaster, which was basically like my life's goal. I've not got that much time left, I mean, I realize that my age remains 39 every year, but still, I probably objectively have like 5 years if I wanna try to get the GM title. It's gonna be, I'm not gonna be able to do it like by winning the World Senior Championship. I mean, maybe. E takes d4. We don't want to trade pieces in this position. E takes d4 is the right move. Constant Change has played the same. He's played the same basic way, with colors reversed. We had actually like the identical position with colors reversed. I think exactly identical. He's trying to copy that move for move. But I'm trying to remember now. The problem is, you know, if he had an extra move here, he would already be castled or have played something like queen d7. But if I play queen c2 in this position, he can't increase his control of... He can't increase his control of e4. There's a problem though. Queen c2, bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3. Maybe then I have to play queen d3. Queen d3. If queen c2, bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3. But queen d3... controlling e4. Well, I don't trust online poker, and it's also, yeah, just drying up. It's no longer a trend. My first love is chess, obviously. I got distracted. Maybe I would be already a grandmaster if I had focused on chess full time, but unfortunately we have to make a living too, so poker was more lucrative than chess. Maybe not the case anymore. Maybe a little bit, yeah, but it also made me really moody, and you need money to play poker. You really do. You need a lot of money. I mean, I don't think it's worth it to grind like micro stakes. Bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3. Queen takes is not on because of bishop takes c6, obviously. He's given up the bishop pair here. So we'll try to support d4 with the pieces, you know, not allow him this trick like knight e5. My bishop's just too strong. I don't want to trade it on c6. So bishop b2 followed by bishop f6 probably from black, and then rook d1. I mean, white could at some point take this and just play for pawn structure advantage. The problem with e3 is that it allows knight e5, which almost equalizes, and I have to protect my pawn on d4. Rook d1, rook d1. Is the question, is it better to play rook d1, and is it going to matter? Yeah, actually, rook d1 stops knight e5. It doesn't block this diagonal too. You know, so that might be better. I don't like playing bishop b2 necessarily because it could block my action along the b file. This bishop isn't so bad where it started out. The b file is important for me. If I can put pressure on b7, that's probably beneficial. So maybe this move is, by process of elimination, this move is a better way of doing it. PoE, a useful concept in poker and chess. Interesting c4. I think you captured back wrong way. Mupavat's talking about the last game. Captured back on c4 the wrong way. I should take with the bishop. I was nervous about the queens being on the board. You know, queen and knight is a very strong combination. My pawn structure's messed up. What's this? What's this knight b4? Constant change has a tendency to play too fast. It looks like that's happening. Knight b4 is a strange move. I mean, on the surface, it looks like he wants to just play like an outpost, play for an outpost on d5, but he might just lose his whole pawn structure or something. If I play queen b3, maybe he has something. C5. What's the trick here? Lemuel Gullible challenge me, but I don't think we're going to have time for more than the current challenges, guys. These are long games. I have to stop around 12:45. So we have an hour and 25 minutes. White has a vicious bishop pair here. Constant change. Tried to repeat a variation he plays with colors reversed, but the extra move he doesn't have because he's black really, I think, hurt him. So this position looks dubious. Definitely not easy to make a generous living playing poker online. Well, there was a time when it was definitely possible, but I think that time has come and gone. Rook b8. Too many problems with countries not allowing people to play, regulation, online sites not being reputable. It's just too tough now. Rook b8. Nothing lasts forever. I still play poker live occasionally. I went to Prague and played the EPT, some side events there in December. I like to go at least once a year and play some kind of live tournaments. But I'm just an amateur now. Rook b8. So he's letting me get the rolling center pawns. Rook b1 looks pretty logical. Getting this guy off that diagonal. But ultimately, he doesn't have any weaknesses, you know. I mean, that's something that we should think about. I mean, he has no pawn moves, no concrete weaknesses. White eventually is going to roll the central pawns, and I think if you want to talk about how to win this position, two bishops in an endgame, maybe like a strong central passed pawn, something like a passed D pawn that just kind of ties him down. But I don't want him to set up some kind of solid blockade, so, you know, he'd like to have a knight on d5 that was unassailable, something like that, but of course he can't do that because I can always just kick it out, you know, with the e4. And my two bishops are hard to really pin down. So this is just a massive position for white, potentially. But on the other hand, I mean, it's like I don't have really clear targets, you know. So we need to just improve step by step, like with a spatial advantage. Maybe one of these pawns could fall. I mean, I could have like bishop f4, put pressure on c7. b7 might just outright fall. a7 could get weak and fall. Bishop a3 puts my bishop on a bad square, and I don't like it. So we can go for the direct pass pawn approach here with e4. I mean, eventually that's going to be the natural plan anyway. Wait a minute now. Am I just winning with bishop f4 here? It looks that way. Bishop f4. Yeah, this has got to be slicing bishops. For a second I forgot that I had too many guys on b4. You know, he can't play bishop d6. Sometimes I just overlook very, very obvious tactical things. You have really good games against him. You guys should meet up in real life. Rah Rasputin, you had the best username ever. Plucro is like, you're a little slow on the uptake. Bishop f4, yeah. Thank you for not spoiling. I found it before I saw Plucro's suggestion, but obviously the bishops, you know, they work really well as a tandem. So these guys raking those two diagonals. This opening was not a success for black. We're going to play a3. and snipe the pawn on b7, you know, he might get my a3 pawn, but his whole queenside's going to fall apart. You know, he's probably going to lose like all of his queenside pawns. Now, it's going to be like all isolated. He loses the key one on b7. That's basically the base. So, the base. Yeah, our last game with Mupovats was a very rare line of the Trompowsky, but I don't think it matters what you play, Mupovats. I mean, the Trompowsky probably is an opening where you're gonna get like equality at best. I mean, objectively, like most things, you know. I mean, the English opening, it's very hard to get an advantage. I think we have to be content with equality. Like yesterday, I played a game with a guy who was 2100, and I played knight f3. He played d5, and I played g3. And, you know, I'm aware of the fact that basically I don't have an opening advantage. You know, when you play something like the King's Indian attack or even the English opening, you're probably not going to be able to get an opening advantage. You're going to get an equal position, and then you're going to have to outplay your opponent from an equal position. Even in the main lines of e4, e5 or e4, c5, opening theory is so advanced that it's been very perfected, and it seems like white can't really rely on an opening advantage. The Trompowsky is probably as good as anything. But I think if you do play the Trompowsky, it's like a position. It's really like a positional kind of opening. Now, right, rook c8. So bishop g4. Doesn't really, you know, it's something we could consider, but it doesn't really do anything. Okay, bishop g4, rook a8, only move, and I don't know that I've achieved anything with this. We could consider something like ae4, taking away his only square, his only good square. But if I play e4, I don't know, e4 is interesting. Like e4, what is he going to play, a5 or something? e4, b5 or e4... e4, b5. He probably has to do b5. Yeah, I think I better go for this. I'm going to concretely break up his chain. I mean, that's what I'm talking about over here. It's like a sort of Dutch. I think I can afford to let him have this guy and double my pawns. Almost like, whoops, being in the white side of the Stonewall Dutch. I have to admit I missed that. That's a slight problem. Wow. Crazy position. Considering bishop g4 here, but he has f5. Bishop g4. It probably would be interesting to throw in bishop g4. That definitely can't hurt my case. You know, if worse comes to worse, I sacrifice the exchange, and I have 2 pawns for it, and a really, really strong passed pawn. I mean, I think white's probably standing better, but I totally overlooked knight c3, which is typical for me. The Trompowsky's a good opening. It's perfectly okay. I think it's best for positional players who like closed games. Yes, there are some lines that are very tactical, but I think that's more or less kind of rare. Okay, what are we doing here? He took on d1. I think maybe I should just recapture. No, but then he has actually, what's going on around here? Bishop takes c8. Oh, I see, he's on f2. Well, I have to take on c8, I guess. Equal material, my guy is hanging. So I have... Yeah, I understand now. Okay. I didn't see this. He's got mate in 2 threatened. Bishop e3. Tactically ridiculous that I let this happen. He's up to 2259. This is his highest rating ever now. He's 1800 in bullet, 2259 in classical. Bishop e3 might save me. Take, take, check. King h1. Oh, he has checks there. Yeah, maybe not. The problem is e3, queen d2, which I didn't see. Looks like black's just like winning. It's really strange. I just missed knight d5, knight c3. It's pretty obvious. And here I should have just played a simple move. Maybe I didn't have a good move, though. I thought I did. In any case, I probably had a winning position. But he sees every tactic. He never misses anything tactically. He's basically almost perfect tactically. How about bishop e3? Yeah, it looks really, really grim. Bishop e3, knight takes, pawn takes, queen takes, check. King f1. Yeah, I'm just lost. It's funny, there's no way to protect f2. Yeah, e7's hanging, but I'm being faced with mate. Oh wait, I have bishop e3, knight takes, queen takes. I have bishop e3, knight takes, queen takes e7. I guess he saw this because he had it like planned out basically. Knight d1. What? He's seen that in advance? Yeah. Just tragic. It's totally winning position for white. If I make any kind of normal move here, I just completely overlooked this. After knight c3, I should have played bishop g4. And there I'm probably okay. I'm just okay. I can survive. I was actually talking about that, then I decided not to do it. This is okay. Bishop g4, knight takes d1, rook takes d1. Soon constant change will be up around 2300 in classical. Alright guys, let's move on. Meki, 15 plus 2. There was no defense. He never misses any kind of tactics. E4, C5. Maybe tactics for someone else, but not for him. E4, C5 here. I'm going to play E6. Normally I play the Sicilian with D6 or knight to C6. But for a little bit of variation, let's try to play with E6. Tactically, I'm a little bit sleepy. But I underestimated him. I mean, at that point, you know, I thought this position is over, and I thought his only chance was to get an opposite colored bishop position overlooking knight c3 altogether. And the one chance to save the game was bishop g4. But then I had some hallucination that that I could take on b7 and somehow it was okay. But I didn't see queen d2. So this is Scheveningen and Sicilian. Solid but a little bit passive for black. Guys, I'm streaming here every weekday, Monday to Friday. And normally I'm playing time controls of something like 5 plus 3 up to 8 plus 3. But for Mondays, I try to play a little bit longer, time control. For something different. Fridays, 5 plus 3. Mondays are 15 plus 2, longer games. So just to create a little bit of variation, so it's not the same routine every day. On Wednesdays, I do weird opening stream where we try to play stuff we don't normally play, make it fun. Gambits, other fun, interesting openings that I wouldn't normally play. I should play the Dutch, for example. A suggestion of Mupavat. Okay, classical Scheveningen. But I don't play rated games because it's, as you can see, pretty difficult to commentate and not get into like really bad time pressure, which typically is what brings me down. We had a great position against constant change, but he always puts me in a lot of pressure on the clock, and not my excuse really there. I mean, just being blind, you know. overlooking knight c3 is pretty dumb because I saw it in other variations in that game, but bishop e3. Classical Scheveningen. Normally white's playing knight to b3, but not necessarily. It's not like the dragon where you have to play knight to b3. Constant Change insists on leaving his knight. It's not good what he does, but he doesn't really listen. Normally in the dragon, you're supposed to play knight to b3 or knight to b6, and Constant Change just leaves his knight on d4, which is positionally incorrect. That's how I got such a big advantage, by achieving d4 in the opening. Now Mecky's move a3. This is, as you can imagine, it's not really a great move for white in this position. Though he's white, he can afford to waste some time. I would recommend something more constructive. What is the worst opening move for white? a2. You did play bishop g4, but you took on c8. Yes, of course. Thank you for pointing that out, Pukro. Yeah, I had a hallucination. It's like a mirage in the desert. You know, you're basically dying of thirst, and you think that there's some hope on the horizon, but if I had just simply taken back the rook, I have very good compensation. That was actually one of the first things I said. Like, worst comes to worst, I lose the exchange, but I have very, very strong, 2 pawns for the exchange, bishop pair, central pawn. I think a lot of grandmasters would actually prefer to play white in that position after something like knight takes d1, rook takes d1. Though maybe he has f5, and I'm not actually getting 2 pawns for the exchange. This is a bit unusual. Queen d2. Typically white playing like castles king side and knight to b. Again, not necessarily knight b3. I mean, if I play d5, many situations I end up with an isolated pawn, so it's not as important for white to play knight b3 here as it is in the dragon. Now h4, that's he's basically goading me into playing what I was just talking about, d5. Actually, a3 kind of makes sense in this position. If I'm going to play an isolated queen pawn type of position, a3 will stop me from having like bishop b4 available. So that's interesting. But I think that maybe I should play like a good English attack here. Knight takes d4, bishop takes d4, b5. Though h5, h6 is pretty dangerous. So I can strike in the center. I guess that makes a lot of sense. Play an isolated queen pawn position. This will take away his kingside attack. He'll have to respond in the center. I can also take with this player. He has just 89 games. Becky, do you have like multiple accounts or something? Very few games. Or do you just play unrated? d5. But bishop d3 is a strange move. I mean, here, why not just taking on... I'm starting to speak like a broken English. Why not just taking on d5? Why don't you just take on d5? He's instead trying to support his center, but I think this is good for black. I have a lot of moves actually. I mean, knight g4, e5. So this is a really bad move. I mean, he has to take here. It's not even like an option. I mean, I guess you could consider taking on c6, but to me that doesn't seem as good as simply capturing on d5 and playing this kind of IQP position, e takes d5, e takes d5, or e takes d5, knight takes d5, knight takes d5, where white shouldn't really stand worse. Despite his funny moves a3 and h4. White is white and so can afford to make like one or two weird moves. In this case, like a3. It actually comes in handy in that isolated queen pawn type position because bishop b4 won't be an available idea for me. e5 wins a piece. No, it doesn't win a piece because he takes on c6 and I have to recapture. Knight g4 was an option. Plucro always like sees what I'm thinking like a moment later. Yeah, knight g4 is an option. But I think he would take on c6 and maybe play something like bishop g5. I'm not really sure what's going on there. That looks a little odd. Unfortunately, I'm not winning a piece. As much as I'd like to be winning a piece, I'm not winning a piece. But we have a pretty good game. Took over the center. We're threatening to win a piece. We could take on e4, winning a pawn, but I'm not sure how good it is. It's probably pretty good. I can support the pawn with f5. And what about knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, pawn takes e4, and then something like queen c3 for white, blockading and avoiding an exchange of queens. The only moves are queen c1 and queen c3 that avoid an exchange of queens. There's another plan here for black though, knight g4 now. Going for the dark squared bishop. But it feels like I should try to win a pawn here. Pawn takes. The problem is he gets like bishop c4. If I play pawn takes, he has bishop c4, which is a really strong piece. So I'm not sure. Probably I should take with a knight. Play this position, a pawn up. It's certainly obviously better for black. You know, I was thinking knight takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, queen c3, avoiding trade of queens, and then like I have queen d5 probably. Queen d5. He instantly played queen c3. Somebody dial the psychic network. Queen d5. Maybe he's listening to the stream. Queen d5 has some issues though. You know, I do kind of waste time. I mean, rook d1. What is my idea on that? Rook d1. So maybe it's better not to be. He's on this though. He's on everything. This position is a bit tedious. Bishop g4. I don't want to end up with any bad pieces. This bishop has a tendency to become a bad piece. Bishop g4 looks tempting. A lot of my stuff is hanging, but that shouldn't really matter. This pawn bothers me. I don't really want to lose that one. But then again, I'll have a lot of counterplay. Alright, let's go for it. Keeping all my pieces active here. It's pretty hard to learn chess at the age of 46. d4 totally justifies a3 and weakens the light squares. Bobby JR is challenging us, but we don't really have time. I've got a casual correspondence challenge. We're going to play another game or two after this one. We lost to Constant Change. We drew with Mupovats. We drew with... we haven't won a game today? Or did I win one? You guys are pretty good. I drew with Mupovats, lost to Constant Change, drew with Mule Skinner. That's a pretty good collection of results for people playing against a streamer who's supposed to be pretty decent. I don't feel like I'm that good here. Okay, 15 plus 2, this is not really a time control I'm used to playing. It's something between like normal chess and blitz. It's hard to pace yourself correctly, honestly. I like Meki's play though. He's like sacking a pawn, getting squares for his pieces. Doesn't know anything in the opening. Just completely made it up. Like, I don't think he's ever opened an opening book. A3, Queen D2, H4, Bishop D3. Now, I guess if I was really super serious about this game, maybe I wouldn't take on E4. But I just realized that there's a trap here, because if I play knight G4, I didn't see this, but he has pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn, knight takes D5. Queen takes D5, bishop takes H7 check. So he was actually threatening to win this pawn here. Wait a minute. No, what was the game? Oh, knight E2. I'm crazy. All right. Yeah, of course, knight G4 here is probably the best move for black. I was concerned about some weird thing happening, like bishop G5, F6, F3. I wasn't sure what's going on there. Like knight G4, bishop G5, F6, F3. Very odd position. Now knight G3. Well, thankfully there's no rook D1. We can rule that out temporarily. So I can play queen D5 to protect my pawn, protect my pawns, the whole lot of them. Yeah, queen D5 was a good idea. Maybe white can play rook D1 instead. I'm not even sure what I intended after rook D1. And probably some routine move like queen C7. Just guarding my pawns. But that would be leaving white in a situation now where he can't move his knight. So he'd have to play something like rook D1, queen C7, rook D2, and then go on about his business. I was thinking of giving up this pawn on E5 just to liberate my own bishop and start attacking things. We should make a tournament instead of a simul one day. Actually, Pukro, that's a good idea. I actually talked about that once, but not very seriously. You guys are playing good today. Well, don't do as I do, do as I say. You guys are playing well. Try to teach you guys who are not native English speakers to speech correctly. Speech correctly, and don't say good, say well. Queen D5. White's sort of stuck. He could have just taken the pawn too, but it looked really a little bit weird. Like queen takes, bishop F6. And then queen takes E4. Maybe you should just be materialistic here, Meki. I mean, objectively, your king will be stuck in the center after bishop takes E2, king takes E2. And material will be even. That's the end of my analysis. You know, like queen takes E5, bishop F6, queen takes E4, bishop takes E2, king takes E2, bishop takes B2. And his king's in the center of the board in an open position. Therefore, I must be better. But it's not that easy to get the king on E2, so maybe materialism was the right idea. Another possibility is sometimes to play like bishop C5. Now he played queen d2. But that doesn't really make sense. I mean, you're down material, so trading queens isn't really the right idea, first of all. Secondly, you know, if you take on d5, you're correcting my pawn formation. So I'm gonna play f5, and I'm gonna have a threat of f4 as well. This looks extremely good. Queen d2, almost certainly a mistake. Chess and the Wisdom of Life. Blaze of Glory said, I'm the kind of guy you'd like to have a coffee with. Coffee shop type of person. I live too far from the nearest Starbucks. I'm not really into Starbucks, but that's the only place I can really be sure to get like a strong American style coffee. There's some other chains. You probably find them on the main streets here, but I miss like the American coffee shop, not the commercial one like the Starbucks, but a cooler indie coffee shop. Alright, pawn takes pawn. White is just dead. He's just dead. The pawn amoeba. The amoeba is killing. It's a deadly amoeba. Thank you for letting me win a game, Meki. I was getting really kind of down on myself. Had a rough time of it today. There's this exchange of figura. This is over. I mean, these pawns are just monstrous. But I thought he had a pretty reasonable game. He just he was hesitant and kept changing his plan. I mean, after queen c3, f5, where were we? You know, when he played knight g3 after bishop g4, I think he should just bite the bullet and take this pawn. I mean, it's of course, it's dangerous, but everything's dangerous. Now you just have no counterplay. His royal duliness. It's a code word. I understand. Typical code wordism. Rook b8. Getting all the pieces in the action. In tandem with the amoeba, the king can centralize at d5, just living large. This king is living large if it gets to d5. We have everything under control. Oh well, constant change, we blew it. We had a really good position, perfect opening, and then let my guard down and dropped in exchange. I know how dangerous he is. The one thing that might save white is like a bishop g5, trading pieces. Well, nothing's going to save him objectively, but you know, let's just rule that out. No trading pieces allowed. I actually wanted my bishop to go to c5 in the event of bishop g5. I was planning bishop c5. So now that he's ruled it out with b4, we need an alternative plan. Of course, I could just ignore bishop g5 and play something like bishop d6 or anything. I can just do anything I want here. I mean, I could give up my bishop, just trade bishop takes e2. These pawns just win. It's only one pawn up, but it feels like I'm up 2 or 3 pawns because the pawns are so powerful. Honestly, I mean, it just looks like it feels like I'm up 3 pawns here, and I'm only up 1 pawn. Right? Plus the bishop pair, plus the development. The computer evaluation is probably around +3. That's forcing me to make an offer I can't refuse, right? Forcing me to make a decision. F4, the pawn diamond. Kind of dicey to let him have his own passed pawns on the queen side. I can play F4. He can probably sacrifice a piece around here. I mean, he should probably think about sacrificing a piece with like knight takes F4 or something dramatic. The pawn diamond. It's not as strong as a pawn cube. Actually, he should sacrifice a piece, objectively, before these pawns just destroy him completely. Maybe knight takes d4. Knight takes d4, pawn takes d4, bishop takes f4. And I still have, you know, I have to work a little bit to win. If you really want to be on the safe side, after c4, you can just take en passant. I mean, that's got to be good enough to win. But now it's like 2 connected passed pawns is worth a rook on the 5th or 6th rank like that. That's 5 points of material right there. So it's hopeless. We've got d2, so it's obviously winning. Winning a piece under better conditions. You know, if he had sacrificed a piece before, right now, with like knight takes d4, pawn takes d4, bishop takes f4, before he played king f1, like here, he still has some practical chances in a blitz scenario to save the game. He's not down that much material. He is up a piece. Well, I guess it doesn't matter where I go exactly. But I was hoping to get on the white squares. Dial a white square. This. Not a very deep tactic. Two bishops. Alright guys, we have time for another game or two. We'll see. If I'm short of time at the end, maybe we'll, you know, just play a blitz game or something. I sit till 12:45 today. That should be enough for one plus maybe one more. Or maybe one blitz game. Miots. I'm going to play the Sicilian. We're looking for a win. We're going to try to win as fast as possible. Alright. We won a game at least today. Appears to be conglomerating his pawns into a mega chessatron. Yeah, those pawns are good in the center. Central pawn mass is an effective weapon. But Meki, despite his kind of weird opening, had a lot of little opportunities to get a kind of playable position. I think he did the right thing not trading queens, and then he just didn't decide on a concrete plan of action. Probably grabbing pawns with like queen takes e5 and taking his chances with his king in the center would have been the best. Blue Crow's challenging me to. I assume you're challenging me to blitz. Where's my game? Yeah. All right. So when we play our default defense to e4, I'm normally playing this so-called classical Sicilian. I mean, let's play bishop b5. This is an incredibly popular move for something that's not really considered to be dangerous or even theory. People who don't know opening theory tend to gravitate toward this because it's like developing quickly and you know, just getting the pieces out efficiently. Surprisingly, it's not considered a great line for white. Probably enough to maintain equality. I guess you could transpose to the Rossalimo, a form of Rossalimo. But with knight c3, it's not really the most dangerous. Most of the Rossalimo bishop b5 lines, typically white will play like c3 and more in the style of like the Will Paschall or Spanish game. This is a check-over variation style of position, where, you know, in the check-over variation you would play d4 and queen takes d4. You know, where the queen could be very active on d4. Typically white will trade the bishop on c6, and then the queen will be very powerful on d4 with nothing to challenge it. But here I'm just going to take back with the bishop on c6 most likely, and then I don't have any bad pieces. White's still equal here. It's hard to be worse. You really have to try with the white pieces to get a disadvantage. You have to make some concretely bad moves. Yesterday, last game Meki was like a3. Still, you're not worse. You know, after a really slow move, a3. We managed to win one game today. Couple draws. Well played games by our opponents. Actually, Muleskinner was just clearly better when he accepted my draw, because he always does tend to screw up at the end. So I guess it was a good practical decision. And Mupovats was equal. Dropped in exchange against Constant Change and lost in a very good position. Then we won the last game. But white had interesting chances there, you know, despite the strange opening. I think it was not that clear. And now here we have another kind of closed game. I wish there was more theoretical. I wish we had more theoretical kind of games. Unfortunately, pretty much all the games. I mean, the closest to theory was the Muleskinner game. Actually, Mupovats, his line is a rare line in the Trompowsky, but not really very deeply studied. The game with Muleskinner was a kind of quiet d3 Lopez, which I don't know that well, so I drifted into a slightly worse position. But it would be fun if we had more opening theory going on in these long games. But none of our opponents are really the theoretical type. That definitely holds true for those guys. With this time control, we can play, you know, pretty high quality games, and so it would be fun if we get some theoretical games. But so far, no dice as far as interesting opening theory. So with this move, bishop g5, it looks like Miotz goes into the Langell-Bela variation, basically attributed to Kurt Richter, the German master. The name Richter Rauser, they're basically, you know, the two players who developed the system with bishop g5, but Richter liked to play with this bishop b5, which is actually very unusual. It's okay for white. You know, look, Miotz doesn't develop any pawns. He doesn't use any pawns, just piece development. I think this is kind of, in a sense, sometimes dangerous for white, because there can be tactics with knight takes e4. And this is a classic Sicilian theme, like knight takes e4, bishop takes e7, knight takes c3, bishop takes d8, knight takes d1, like take. Sometimes black can equalize with this kind of tactical trick. But I think objectively, white looks like he has more space here, but there's no real plan. He doesn't have a plan with the pawns, you know, and you really need to play with both pieces and pawns strategically to get a concrete advantage. And I think in the chess game, that's why the check-over variation probably isn't that popular. There are some pawn storms in the check over because white can castle queenside. You know, if he was castled queenside, he could throw the kingside pawns. But since he's castled kingside, I find that this kind of position like very hard for white to formulate a plan, because you just develop your pieces to natural looking squares, but then what? You know, what's the idea basically? If black doesn't make any mistakes, you know, there's no forward plan. Like what is he gonna do? At G4, F3, G4 with his king over there on G1. You know, so it's not easy for white to play, I think. Looks quite similar to positions I see all the time playing the French. Well, now obviously at any moment if I play D5, you're going to be in a very similar situation. The Scheveningen type of structures for black with E6 and D6 often do require black to play at some point D5. Never my favorite moment going into French type of structures. If I wanted to play the French, I would play the French, obviously. But sometimes it's necessary for black to allow a French type of structure coming out of this kind of position. So he goes F4 now, but now this looks dangerous. I mean, his king is on G1. And there's some other issues here. But probably we have the classic H6 followed by knight takes E4. H6, bishop H4, knight takes E4, bishop takes E7, knight takes C3, bishop takes D8, knight takes D1. When his knight is like hanging on C6, I mean D4. Knight takes C6. How's my knight getting out? Bishop takes C6. Well, in any case, H6 has to be a good move for black. This cannot be a bad move in this position. I don't have to think too much about this. We can always throw this in. You know, he needs the dark squared bishop. That's his arguably best minor piece. But this diagonal now, I mean, is there a question, is there something else? You know, could I do like queen b6? Perhaps. But I guess the problem with queen b6 is that he could just take on c6. And then, you know, that eliminates temporarily the pressure on d4. Technically, queen b6, bishop takes, b takes, knight a4 might hold on for white. I guess this move deserved consideration. But as much as we think this is a lot of time, I'm not that fast to calculate, and it's my weakness. You know, I was thinking about this yesterday. I had a very weird game where I had all sorts of insane tactical possibilities in a tournament game yesterday, and I was seeing parts and bits and pieces of them. But with this 90 minutes and 40 moves time control, that's the classical chess, you know, standard chess classical time control. I didn't feel comfortable, you know, calculating really long computer variations, and feeling like I was doing the right thing practically. So it's a matter of really like learning to calculate more quickly. Perhaps that's my best road to improvement, because I'm a little bit slow to calculate. Knight takes e4, bishop takes e7, knight takes c3, bishop takes d8, knight takes d1. That's forced. Now, in that final position, the problem is that my knight has a tendency to get trapped on d1. I mean, it can take on b2 and perhaps get out that way. I can also just play something like knight takes d4. But knight takes d4, queen takes d4. It's like equal. Knight takes d4, queen takes d4, bishop takes b5, knight takes b5, a6. I mean, that position is objectively equal. But we want more than equal. You know, that's the thing here. But how can I get more than equal? You know, knight takes d4 is equal. Nothing clear there. D5, for example, threatening like bishop c5. If I wanted to do that, I should have left the bishop on g5, because here it could come back and actually defend here. My move h6 was more or less aimed at playing knight takes e4 now. But I'm having second thoughts about whether it actually works. Knight takes e4, bishop takes e7, knight takes c3, bishop takes d8, knight takes d1. Now if he recaptures, I'm fine, but that's the problem position now. I need a move. His bishop's hanging, my knight's hanging. And my knight's virtually trapped, but his knight's hanging on d4 too. So knight takes c6, b takes c6, and I'm fine. So bishop takes c6, and then something like b takes c6. Yeah, bishop takes c6 has to be the move. Well, let's say b takes c6. And then he has all sorts of moves, like bishop e7 hitting my rook. It doesn't look good. And I don't see anything there. I don't think the tactic even works. I mean, we'll see after the game, but I think he has bishop takes c6. And then any kind of simple move like bishop e7 when at best I'm equal. Like best case scenario, I'm equal there. This I'm sure is equal. We trade some pieces, we have no weaknesses. It has to be okay for black. Not very exciting as well though. You know, I don't know. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I just don't see this working. Knight takes e4, bishop takes e7, knight takes c3, bishop takes d8, knight takes d1, and then bishop takes c6. Now I have to recapture back. If I take with the bishop, knight takes, b takes, bishop e7, rook e8, rook takes d1. I mean, he has at least equality there. So I guess I should take back with the pawn. Then he plays bishop c7 or bishop e7 hitting my rook. I have to move my rook. He plays bishop takes d6. I play knight takes b2. That kind of position maybe. What's the best case scenario? Like I'm equal. It looks that way. So it's just not gonna work. I don't know what he's thinking about here. To take on d7 or not. Looks like bishop takes d7 allows knight takes c2. So I would strongly recommend recapturing on... I strongly recommend recapturing on d4, Miyots. I think it's sort of forced. Yeah, he doesn't want to let this intermezzo. Probably doesn't want to allow this intermezzo. And of course we have to look for things like e5. That actually is curious. I still don't see anything concrete there though. There's some interesting lines like e5, take, take, queen takes. But I don't see anything great. Queen b6 check, everything's protected. Maybe I have a queen b6 check. Oh man, you could see his queen getting trapped. Well, that's wild. That's an insane line. E5, take, take, queen takes, queen b6 check. And if he moves the king, bishop d6. It's still unclear because knight d5 at the end of the day there. Bishop takes e5. Knight takes b6. A takes b6. Bishop takes d7. Get out of here. That's a really crazy line. e5, take, take. Queen takes e5. Queen b6 check. Queen f2, queen, bishop f2, queen takes f2 wins immediately. But king h1, bishop d6, trapping the queen, except for knight d5 problem. But maybe I have a simple move. I just take on d5. He has to take back, then I take on b5 and I'm up a piece. Okay, so e5 might actually work. Of course, it's not the end of the world, you know. Best case scenario, I win the pawn on f4. That doesn't end the game. If I win a pawn on f4, we'll see what he does, though. Are you guys with me calculation wise here? e5, queen b6 check. It's pretty nasty. Maybe I missed something. Knight a4. Not really. He's going to drop a piece there. I mean, in all lines, looks like. You've always got to be careful when you play f4 and your king's on g1, on the white side of the Sicilian. It's almost universally best to play king h1. Check out a few Karpov or Michael Adams games on the white side of quiet Sicilians. This is a classic Scheveningen theme that's usually good for black, because we play e5, and you see what happens here. I've actually created an Isolani for white at e4, plus I've actually liberated my bad bishop on e7. So it's not only good for me tactically, but strategically. Yeah, he overlooked queen takes f2 check. I mean, the main thing was, the big variation was this, you know, and bishop d6. It's a funny position where his queen is actually like trapped in the middle of the board. Something that doesn't happen every day. So knight d5, knight takes d5, queen takes d5, bishop takes b5, and I seem to win a piece. So I'm not trying to slow roll him here, but we win a piece, and d7 is protected at the end, which is that's the whole point. So we can play. You never know what you're going to get with me. I mean, it may be tactical, it may be boring, tactical game. But the critical thing I want to check after the game will be that line. Let's see what we have for challenges here. I've got to stop in like 20 minutes, so Crow's challenged me to blitz. I think we'll play a blitz game or two to finish out the stream today. We win a clean piece here. I'm considering bishop c5 check, but I'm not sure that it has any concrete benefit. He has only one pawn. Only one pawn for the sacrificed piece. Now, objectively, I don't know what the best move is. Probably knight e5. Although b4 in that case. It's worth considering trading pieces with knight b6. Objectively. So we'll finish the stream out today with a couple blitz. 1 or 2 blitz games. I'm just curious when we finish this game to just double check that position when I played e5. I've played almost the same opening as this before, and I remember that the engine on a few occasions was coming up with some kind of tactics, you know, regarding the queen on d4 and the bishop on b5. It creates tactical possibilities for me. But obviously f4 for white, you know, is just really weakening. Let's just see. Thank you for the game, Yotes. Let's just see what was really going on there. This is, again, like a very rare line. You might notice that g6 is more popular than e6. I'm not sure if it's objectively a better move, but... So here we are in some kind of very rare territory. Yeah, I mean, bishop takes c6 may seem strange to some people, but that's kind of the strategic idea behind the whole thing, you know. So the computer has queen b6, as I was talking about, as its main line. Yeah, maybe. Bishop takes c6, bishop takes c6. I said knight a4, but this poses some problems. So h6, bishop h4, and now knight takes e4. I was looking at this forever, you know. What's really going on here? I'm groveling for a draw. Bishop takes e7, knight takes c3, bishop takes d8, knight takes d1. And here I thought bishop takes c6. And that's what the engine thinks too. But the computer thinks I'm equal. Well, I was thinking that I was slightly worse here. Bishop takes c6, b takes bishop e7. This is the exact line that we looked at. Now the computer says I'm 0.1 worse. Sacking the exchange with knight takes b2, double exclamation point. Wow. Can we really do that? I'd be terrified he was going to terrorize me with a rook on the 7th rank here. Check this out. This is brilliant. Bishop takes f8, king takes f8. This is the computer. Computers have come a long way. Knight c4, and I'd be scared of rook b7. But this goes to show. This is a computer variation. It's like an exchange sacrifice. Interesting. Black is, but I'm basically right. You know, black is groveling for a draw here. This isn't really. I'm not on the better side of this position. This looks like not fun. So I'm glad I didn't do that, and we played the best move. So we're getting warmed up. e5. My original intention was this, which is equalizing, but e5 is even stronger. So this was correct. And now he has to be careful. I don't know. F takes e5. Okay, d takes e5. And now some sort of safe move. Queen d3. Queen d3, queen b6 check. And the engine thinks I'm slightly better. Structurally, as an isolated pawn on e4. So, good game, though. Instructive. Let's play some 1 or 2 blitz games here. Plucro and Tremar. Sorry I couldn't get to more of the longer games, guys, but I've got to leave in like 15 minutes. So we'll play a blitz game or 2. Gladys Troll, I got excited when you gave me the rook. I only thought about proposing a take back after a few moves. Gladys Troll, funny thing happened. I lost to Gladys Troll in a Chess 960 game yesterday because what ended up happening was it was a rated game. I didn't really feel like playing. I was kind of tired, but I accepted his challenge. I said just one game, and then in this like position where I was down a pawn with compensation, I had more time, and Gladys Troll was close to flagging. He probably thought I made like a pre-move, but a weird thing happened. Like I didn't actually intentionally make a pre-move. What actually happened was that I thought that Gladys Troll had made a move. Like So I actually wasn't really paying close enough attention. I was just really tired or something. I actually made a pre-move. Almost never pre-move in Blitz because I'm never playing like Bullet or anything, and I had a huge time advantage. So I ended up making like a pre-move, thinking it was my turn, and it wasn't, And so like I just wasn't paying attention, and then Gladys Troll happened to make the move I didn't anticipate, or whatever, and but I didn't expect him to give me a take back. I mean, I made a pre-move. E3. But I should have just resigned Gladys Troll. I tried to flag him down a rook for like 10 moves, but... okay, Blue Crow, you're playing the... Oh, God. Let's try knight h3. So it wasn't actually... You probably thought it was a pre-move, but it was actually like me just not paying attention and thinking it was my turn. But I don't expect you to give me a take back, in a rated game. I was just angry with myself for playing because I was tired, and I shouldn't have played when I was tired. Why don't I play this against you? Says Blue Crow. Against me. Knight h3 is just a rare move. I thought we'll play it for fun. I've done the same thing with colors reversed sometimes. I mean, with black I played this a lot, and after e3, d5, I had a game the other day against one of my students in some training games. But objectively, probably best is maybe d3. And then you could think about knight h3 later. I like the system for black, honestly. It's funny how sometimes playing something a tempo down can actually be better than not having the tempo. Yeah, Gladys Troll. I was just tired, and when you challenged me, I didn't really want to play, but I was like, all right, yeah, one game. But it wasn't really a pre-move. I literally thought it was my turn. Bishop b7, very strange. Very strange lineup here. Not usual to castle. I mean, sorry, to Fianchetto on the queen side. I'm like commentating as if this is a 15+2 game, by the way. Maybe d4 is an interesting try here. I'm not really sold on it though. Like d4, pawn takes pawn, knight b5. It's interesting though. Alright, it's a blitz game. Let's have some fun. Trying to take advantage of the the pin, basically. Everything's possible. Maybe bishop f4. Like knight b5 and bishop f4, ganging up on c7. Maybe we'll snap his a pawn if he tries to protect. Queen a4 ideas. But he can't do everything at once, that's the problem. I don't think that I like b6, bishop b7 for black. This is kind of weird. I mean, f5 in tandem with bishop b7. Yeah, I mean, Gladys Troll, if it had been like a mouse slip, you know, you should probably think about offering me a take back if it's... But in that situation where there's like no time, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be angry if you didn't offer me a take back. But it wasn't a mouse slip. It was like a weird hallucination. All right. So bishop b4, what the heck are you doing? That's ultra bizarre. I accept your offer. It looks like he's gonna do some kind of crazy England gambit type of thing here. Man, this is really far out. What else is there, senor? Having said A, you have to say B. This is the only move. Bishop takes c3, b takes c, knight e4. He's playing the England gambit. That's like d4, e5. That's what I'm intimating. It looks like d4, e5. I mean, you could try to play knight g4, but that doesn't seem right here. There's really nothing else to do. Do we have any rated challenges that I didn't notice? No. Okay. Matzi, I might accept your casual correspondence challenge. Mohammed Reza, there's no time for more 15+2 today. Thanks anyway. He played knight g4. Why knight g4? Why not knight e4? That's looking like a standard England gambit. But knight g4, okay, fair enough. Why can't I just play f4? Actually, there's all sorts of nasties here. Bishop g5. Okay, bishop g5's intention is to play queen c8 when life isn't that clear. We do possibly keep a really powerful advanced pawn on e5 with f4. Computer would just rip you apart here, but I don't know how. That's the problem. Hey, how about e6? Ooh, that looks interesting. e6. Alright, let's have fun. It's a blitz game. Yesterday I had a funny tournament game where there were just a plethora of tactics that I didn't play that I could have played. And I was just constantly avoiding like very, very, very crazy, unclear possibilities. But looking at it the next day, man, there were so many wild tactical possibilities. The computer just had a field day with this position I played. It started out as a positional game, but there were these crazy queen sacrifices, and it just looks like black's lost here. After queen a4, I hope. Just getting getting ripped apart in the open board, on the open board. Yeah, I guess there's no defense to that. Blue Crow, I mean, that's why I like knight e4. You nullify my bishop on g2, you know? This is a non-piece after knight e4. It just felt like better, you know? Plus you have this like knight c5 kind of thing. I didn't realize queen takes d7 was check. What? Check? Oh, check for me, like you had an intermezzo here. You thought you had a trick? You thought you had a trick here? Queen takes d7 was check. No, but look, I mean, I'm probably thinking your position may not be that bad after like knight e4. d4 is the best move. I mean, this is critical. E takes d4, and then I was going to play knight b5, but the computer thinks that knight d5 might be good too. That was kind of like a really, this would have been fun, a fun variation. Bishop f4. Unclear, you know. Okay. So you played instead this crazy move. We have this, and now you have to play knight e4. It's a messy position where white should be better, but it wasn't obvious to me like what I'm supposed to do here. So that would have been cool. All right, guys, last game against Timor, I guess. 5+3 blitz. And then I've got to run. The dude felt some tilt, said the saddest troll. I don't like losing, saddest troll. And I don't like hanging rooks. It feels very, it makes me angry when I drop rooks. You know, and if it didn't, I would be a very weak player probably. Timur is playing the actually, why don't I just castle here? Romanician plays my system. It's not me playing Romanician system, it's Romanician playing my system. I'm just kidding. Dude, you're not going to develop your king side? Then we get into Romanician territory. I had a game against Grandmaster Laszlo Gonda once. It was a quick draw. I had a similar position yesterday in a tournament game. Basically, I'm not claiming white is any advantage. You can't get an advantage against the London system with either color. But we just get an equal position and then we play chess from there. So this is the Romanician. But actually, you know, I don't know if it's better for him to have maybe his bishop on g4. He could play this position with either the bishop on g4 or the bishop on f5, actually. Come to think of it, Gonda might have played with bishop on g4 this position. It's kind of useful to be able to take out that knight sometimes. This is definitely theory with the bishop on g4. I would think that would be even better for black, because this option to take this guy out would be more proactive for black. All sorts of sacrifices here. Black hasn't castled yet. Yeah, a5 is probably like the safest move. You could try some crazy stuff with knight a4. It would be very messy. I think I was analyzing this exact position with the bishop on g4 the other day. Romanician has played both like rook ac1 and rook fc1. I'm not really sure, actually. With the queen on b6, though, maybe I like this better. You know, to keep this protected. I don't like this queen bearing down on f2 and knight g4 type of stuff. Maybe I'm being a little bit paranoid. Maybe. I mean, okay, he needs to spend a tempo to play knight g4. That's actually not possible with the bishop on g4, obviously. So the London system is a really, really annoying opening. Timur is from Croatia. Yeah, Plukro, knight e4. Nullifying Mr. Bishop. Mr. B on g2. It's a weird position where obviously you're worse, but it's pretty hard to evaluate and find the right moves. Okay, now Timur went a little bit nutty here with knight a4. What are you doing? He's got some strange idea, I think, to play queen b4, it looks like. So if I do a silly move like queen b3, he plays queen b4. But maybe I have queen c2. It may be a matter of him hope chess, you know? The classic hope chess. He fixed this one variation in his head, like queen b3, queen b4, and was like, alright, that's good for me. But he just got his knight out in a bad place now. It's a bad place where there's bad people that want to do bad things to you. But a good system for Timur. Very solid. Objectively, like, if he plays carefully, it's probably a draw. If you look at Romanishin's games, it's like draw, 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 win, draw, 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 win, draw, draw. That's like his results. He's still 2,500, even though he's like probably pushing 70. He plays a lot. I mean, the dude is in his late 60s, and he's playing. I think he's in his late 60s. Maybe I'm wrong. He's got to be. And he's still 2,500. But with that kind of style, as Romanishin has, he's so balanced. Smyslav, basically fundamentally correct player. Catalan type of stuff all the time with white. You can't beat it. I mean, how do you beat a strong grandmaster who plays the Catalan with white? You must never lose a game with the white pieces. Why not queen takes pawn? Obviously this is hanging. There was a moment where he could have tried it earlier, right? Well, he could have played knight a4, knight a4 a move earlier. You know, after knight takes c5. Queen c3. You know, this would have been an interesting moment to try it. But his queen gets trapped in some lines. There's a lot of nasty tactics in there. Well, actually, you suggested it and he did it. But this is just dropping a piece. Well, he's toast here. But I'm curious to check the database. I've got to go, guys. I want to thank you for joining me. And we'll be back tomorrow with Blitz and Classical Chess here on lichess, 10 a.m. CET. Now, I don't mind trading queens when I'm up a piece. He's got big problems. Knight d4 maybe. Yeah, I think this is good. Clear piece up. The a-pawn's not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. Let's just trade it down. I have to be a little bit careful. I probably shouldn't let this pawn get so far down. I'm actually making my life a little bit difficult with that. I'm lucky he didn't play a2. It would have been even harder to take him out. A lot harder, actually. So now it looks pretty straightforward. Is there some sort of trick? Well, yes and no. Carved out a place for our king, and it's over. Alright, just to see the opening there. I really want to see the opening. Surprisingly few games in this position, wow. Now we're like back in the theory. Okay, bishop c5. Romanishin Kozubov, 2010. Yeah, Romanishin Meher Karatian. Romanishin. I looked at this. Okay, it was the same position. Okay. So I play queen c3. There's also like queen a3 or something. But queen c3, a5 best move, knight bd2, castle. So I was right. It was this position with the bishop on f5. Okay. Here Oleg played queen d4 in all his games. I forgot about that. But I'm not convinced by it. Interesting. I think he plays this with the bishop on g4 too. Oh, I'm almost certain. Like I looked at rook c1. The computer says rook a c1 is best. That's what I played. All right, guys. Anyway, we'll be back tomorrow, and I'll see you guys then. Thanks for joining me. Thanks, Blue Crow, for moderating. Thanks, everyone, for playing. We will also thank everyone for checking out my YouTube channel on video chess training on YouTube. And we send up all the streams over there. We'll be what's that? Is it lagging? See you guys later. Check out the YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. Also, thanks to those of you who've donated via PayPal. Much appreciated. And we'll try to keep the stream going for another year, all right, with your help. So if you can just donate $5 a year, it's a big help, either via my YouTube channel or you can click on the PayPal link here on Twitch. Much appreciated. Anyway, if you can't afford to donate, just hang out and contribute to the stream. Help us play some good chess and learn here. All right, guys. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.